neither an investigating authority nor independent. That's the key point here. I guess I want to turn to the part of Mr. Walborn's testimony that you have actually confirmed today, and that is that you refused to look at the evidence that he was presenting on the accusations of a serious sexual misconduct against the Chief of Defence Staff. So you refused to look at that information. I've tried for the life of me to figure out why you would not look at that. There was no investigation taking place at that time. So what could the possible reasons be? And I'm going to suggest there are two possible reasons. One is that you didn't want to see the evidence of misconduct against General Vance because you have a long personal and professional and career relationship with the general. The second possibility is that you did not want to see the evidence because, as Major Brennan has told the media, knowledge of General Vance's sexual misconduct allegations were widespread among the senior leadership. So did you not want to see this evidence because you were afraid you knew what was there?
Madam Chair, let me answer this very directly. Please do not allow any other member to define my experience or my service in the Canadian Armed Forces. And I don't like other men telling me what my experience was like. And I can assure you, and I'm sorry to get angry about this, that I would go after anybody regardless of rank or position if allegation brought forward. The reason, and you say the investigation not started, I disagree. When an ombudsman receives a complaint, the process has started. For me to accept any information at that time is interference in the investigation. I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Please don't have this member to define my experience in the Canadian Armed Forces or what it was like. Because I would not do it for what happened in your life either, okay? I'm sorry. I've had many people, many white men trying to tell me what my experience is. And right now I want to talk about the women and what better we can do for them. So please don't do that, Mr. Garrison, to me.
Well, Mr. Minister, I said nothing about your honorable service in the Canadian Forces. Nothing whatsoever. What I'm asking you about today...
You said that I was hiding something because of service. Please don't do that. Because don't define my experience in the Canadian Armed Forces. Not because of service. You have no idea what my life was in the Canadian Armed Forces. Thank you.
Well, with respect, Mr. Minister, I'm asking about why you did not look at the evidence. And you haven't given us no reason for not looking at the evidence other than to continue to spin this line about the ombudsman. It is not true that once the ombudsman gets a complaint, he starts an investigation. That's simply not a fact. Ombudsmen quite often do not investigate things that come to their office because they don't have the authority.
How? Please explain. If you can explain how that's supposed to work.
If they don't have the authority, then they do not investigate. How
the ombudsman has the ability then to go, as I stated, in their own directives that's given to them when the ombudsman office was set up, to go to the judge advocate general for advice, who can give advice, to go to the provost marshal. Nowhere does it say the Minister of National Defence, for a very good reason, because no politician should ever be part of an investigation. If I can assure you, having involved in any investigation, I don't know what the information was, nor should I. Take a chance. There's an actual chance where I might inadvertently make a mistake and disrupt the just cause that might come from that. I'm sorry. When it comes to investigations, I haven't conducted investigations. And I made that call at that time, and it was a right call not to intervene with an investigation, but making sure that it was followed up by the appropriate authorities.
Well, with respect, Mr. Minister, the Defence Act does give you the responsibility. And you say that you couldn't use a board of inquiry because it would have involved potential criminal charges or potential code of service violations. But when you hadn't looked at the information, you couldn't possibly have known that. The only way you could know that that was not a course of action open to you was to have actually considered the evidence, not to investigate the evidence, but considered the evidence that the Ombudsman tried to present to you because he did not have the authority to proceed further.
With all due respect, Mr. Garrison, there was many options for the Ombudsman available, and more importantly, as it was when it was passed on to PCO for the appropriate people to give the appropriate advice, would have told him there's many things that could have been done. And I'm not here to speculate. What I can only do is to making sure that any allegation that comes forward, it is immediately looked at. And that's exactly what we did, Mr. Garrison, because I can assure you, for one thing, I don't care about the position or the rank of any individual. I care about the people who have been impacted. And I want to make sure that they get the just outcome. And this is why when I was serving was my focus. Why when I was serving in the police, and why right now as Minister of National Defence has been my number one priority from day one. When we put people as chapter number one of the defense policy, the reason that was done was focus on this, that to tell the entire chain of command, the entire structure, that everything that you do must be focused on them. The change in policy, the resources, and how do you root this behavior out? But here's the thing though, Ms. Gears, I know how much you care. And I've seen the passion that you have, but you also know my passion as well, that we want to improve our processes. We have a lot more work to do.
All right,
and
thank
we will
you very much. Okay, on to Madame Ellslev, please.
Thank you very much. Minister, who does the CDS report to?
The Chief of Defence Staff reports to myself as Minister of National Defence.
And who does the Ombudsman report to?
The Ombudsman provides reports to me.
And who do military members deserve a Chief of the Defence Staff who behaves in accordance with the Code of Service Discipline?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Who is legally accountable to ensure that the CDS behaves in accordance with the Code of Service Discipline?
You can't, Madam Chair, when it comes to allegations, as a Minister of National Defence, I do not investigate.
No,
they need to
but
go to
who
the
is
appropriate
ultimately
authorities.
accountable? Who do we look to make sure the Chief of Defence Staff behaves in accordance with the Code of Service Discipline?
My job is to making sure that everybody.
Did you direct the Ombudsman to investigate the allegations that he brought to you?
Madam Chair, as I stated before, when the information was brought forward, as I stated, one, I could not hear it. However, I gave very clear advice exactly what needed to be done.
Not advice, Minister. Did you or did you not direct the Ombudsman to investigate?
Madam Chair, I can, as I stated, I cannot direct in an investigation. That would be political interference.
You can. Did the Prime Minister?
Actually, you cannot.
The Prime Minister on March 10th in the House of Commons said that the minister, directed the Ombudsman to independent officials who could investigate. Is that true?
Madam Chair, the information was provided to PCO officials because they're in charge of governing council appointments. That is very important.
In your mind, Minister, who was charged, responsible for investigating this allegation?
The appropriate authorities only can investigate, Madam Chair.
And who are the appropriate authorities to investigate allegations against the Code of Service Discipline of the Chief of the Defence Staff?
It would be the military, police, the NIS, or if it occurs outside, when it comes to
whose responsibility is it to make sure they know to investigate?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question, please?
Who tells them to investigate? Who makes them aware so they know to investigate?
Madam Chair, I do not direct or inform in any type of investigation. I cannot. It's called, that would be political interference.
Minister, the RCMP were called in to investigate Admiral Norman, and he was suspended when a file was created by the RCMP. Charges were laid, and they were tried publicly in court, Admiral Norman. Can we expect the same process to hold true for General Vance? Or is 20 years of alleged sexual oppression and abuse of authority not as serious an offense as allegedly leaking shipbuilding procurement documents?
Madam Chair, when it comes to the investigation of Admiral Norman, that was, again, done absolutely independent of our office. And in this case here, it will be done independent of our office.
It will be done by whom, Minister? By whom will it be done? And whose authority and responsibility is it to ensure that it gets done?
The military police in this, depends on the allegation. Did you follow up
with the military police to make sure that the investigation was ongoing?
Madam Chair,
did you follow up with anyone to ensure? that the investigation
with all
was
due
completed.
respect, Madam Chair,
Point of
I
order,
cannot
Madam.
interfere.
Point of
Stand
order.
by. Stand by.
Madame la Présidente,
Go ahead, Mr.
as a
Romeo.
member of this committee, I want to have the answer from the minister and not from the member. Please be polite and let the minister talk. Thank you.
All right, Madame Alislev, continue.
I will ask my question again. Minister, who did you follow up with to ensure that the investigation was underway of the Chief of the Defence Staff so that you could take appropriate disciplinary action if that was required?
Madam Chair, as a Minister of National Defence, I do not follow up because that is interference in an investigation.
By law, you are accountable to make sure the Chief of the Defence Staff is behaving in accordance with the Code of Service Discipline. So how do you do that if you don't have the information, follow up on it, and ensure that military members can serve with a CDS who is in accordance with the law?
Madam Chair, I'm not supposed to get that information. That would be inappropriate.
Is it against the
All right,
Code of
thank
Service
you.
Discipline for a senior officer?
Time is up. On to Mr. Baker, please.